Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of End and Explain. My name is John. Today we're talking about the new film, Barbarian, starring Georgina, Campbell, Justin Long, and Bill Skarsgård. But before we begin, if you could give the video a thumbs up and subscribe, it really does help a lot. I recently found out that my views versus my sub count is way off. And when I ask people, like, why is this? Because I talked to some people who kind of do what I do. I'm like, why do you think it is? My buddies are like, you need to ask. So this is me asking. I really do appreciate it. The higher the sub count, actually I recently found out would give me more access to more press releases, because there's a couple of press screenings I should say, that apparently I'm just not cool enough to get into. So yeah, that was a fun conversation. But if you get that sub count a little bit higher, I can give you guys more videos, more video essays, stuff like that. I just have to appease the overlords who dictate who's cool enough and who's not cool enough to attend certain screenings. Yeah, so that's me asking. With that said, let's talk about Barbarian. There's going to be a ton of spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie, I have a spoiler-free review right here. Be sure to go check that out. And without any further ado, we're going to talk about it. I am warning you, this is too good of a movie to spoil. If you haven't seen it, go check it out and then come back. Otherwise, you've been warned. Here we go. Let's talk about it. Barbarian. Barbarian is written and directed by Zach Cregger, who you may know from The Whitest Kids You Know. He also has a cameo as Justin Long's best friend that he meets at the bar, who asks if he really did what he's accused of doing. When it came to casting, Creeger tapped Georgina Campbell, who he had previously seen on an episode of Black Mirror called Hang the DJ, and he absolutely had to have her in the film. For the secondary role, he cast Bill Skarsgård, as he felt that he had a certain quality similar to Anthony Perkins in Psycho, a character you couldn't quite trust, but didn't feel entirely easy around. In fact, according to Creeger, the film's concept was loosely based on Psycho, going to stay the night at a strange location you've never been to before, and being afraid of what might be lurking around the corner.
Nope.
For the role of AJ, Creeger originally wanted Zach Efron, someone good-looking with a chiseled jaw and has, basically solid abs, as he felt that would be the type of guy that you would see in this kind of scenario. Unfortunately, Efron turned down the role. From there, Creeger decided to shift tactics and try to find someone more like Tom Hanks, but obviously younger. And that's when he casted Justin Long, who as of late has been killing it in the horror genre. I know he did Jeepers Creepers back in the day, but traditionally speaking, Justin Long's been known for things like Dodgeball and The Mac Guy. He's not really known for being like a horror guy, but he was in Tusk. He's gonna be in Tusk 2, allegedly, God help us. He was in an episode of Creepshow. He was in House of Darkness, and now he's in Barbarian. And in all of those movies, he plays a very unlikable character. It makes you wonder why he's doing that. All I can figure is that he's trying to break his typecast.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
And it's kind of interesting to watch. I don't know if I love it, but it's different. I think my favorite character is this one.
My name is Brandon St. Randy, and I love Bobby Long.
Fucking A.
Although he does most of the eating in the sack, if you know what I mean. In the sack and of the sack.
All right. I mean, how do you top that? Also, we're conducting a poll. We'd love to get your feedback. Do you think that Justin Long's character did what he was accused of doing? There are 3 options below the description on this video: yes, no, and unsure. Be sure to give a thumbs up next to the answer that you agree with, and comment down below that answer to give me details as to why you think that is the answer that you are going with, and next week we will reveal the winner of that poll. According to the press kit, Creeger's inspiration for Barbarian came from the nonfiction book he had read by security consultant Gavin De Becker, in which the author encourages women to listen to the little voice in their head that identifies red flags and interactions with men that society has encouraged them to ignore. He explains those red flags are often benign, things like a man doing a favor that you didn't ask for, or injecting sexuality into an otherwise sterile conversation, or unwanted physical touching even if it's not sexual. All these things that women have to be careful about. That as a man, I never had to consider because I don't live in that psychic landscape where half the population could be looking at me as prey. It made me realize how different the experiences are of being a man in a modern world and being a woman. The book prompted Creeger to try a writing exercise where he would write a scene for a woman to enter that was loaded with many of these red flags as he could think of. He came up with the premise of a double-booked rental house where the woman had to spend the night filled with more micro red flags, which then was expanded into a script for a horror movie. Let's talk about Mother, shall we? In the film, we were given a flashback back into the 80s during the Reagan administration in Detroit. Joe Chill from Batman Begins is a repairman of sorts, or at least he's posing as one, and he is going around kidnapping women in the area while everybody else is leaving town. The mother is the byproduct of a repeated inbreeding situation. Yeah, it's gross.
And you know, sometimes you make a copy of a copy, it's not quite as sharp as, well, the original. Well, that's kind of what happened. Bye, Steve! I like Steve.
Yeah, like that, but way, way creepier. Kinda gave me vibes of Don't Breathe with the Old Man. He has tons of videotapes, probably more than the guy from Creep. And long story short, the end result is that Mother is a combination of Three Finger from Wrong Turn, the old lady from X, and the Blair Witch from that terrible sequel that came out a few years ago. She is haunting to look at. And for some reason, she seems to have superhuman strength as she rips the arm right off that homeless guy. It doesn't make any sense, but again, this movie is a roller coaster and it's a lot of fun. But ultimately, she just wants to be a mama to anyone who comes down into her domain. You actually feel bad for her towards the end. By the end of the film, she's chasing AJ and Tess up into like a water tower, and then this happens.
Now shoot!
Yeah, I kid you not. It is legit the same framing of that jump from Spider-Man. And it is the one thing that I was talking about in my earlier review that was a negative that I didn't want to spoil. This is it. It was the one thing that was so wonky that I was like, get out of here. The idea of the physics of being able to jump off a water tower, grab somebody, twist them around. I'm pretty sure they cleared a fence in all this. Is insane. And then everybody who lands is fine. Even though Tess has already been shot, even though this lady has been beaten up and hit by a car, doesn't matter. They're all fine. And I'm just like, alright, we're kind of pushing the envelope a little bit too much. Luckily, the movie was pretty much over right after that, and the movie didn't get any crazier. I feel like if it went on any longer than that and got any more absurd than that, I would have clocked out. 90% of the movie, 95% of the movie, leading all the way up to that, perfect. But that one little bit, I'm like, alright. But you know, this movie is crazy, and I'm just gonna embrace the insanity of it. It's definitely meant to be more fun than take it seriously, and I get it. But yeah, this shot is way too wonky. I mean, it did get a big reaction, but it's kinda really dumb when you stop to think about it. Justin Long gets killed, Tess escapes after killing the mother, and as far as the ending, I'm pretty sure in reality, all of the characters should absolutely be dead based on what we see, right? I mean, Mother gets shot in the head, and Tess, despite her walking away, she should be dead. I mean, not only is she shot and later thrown off of a building, but she's in the middle of nowhere, in the worst part of town ever. Considering the cops here are useless and the town is heavily crime-ridden, it's likely that Tess would not have made it through the night. Funny enough, I had the thought that she probably had to go back to that house to go find a set of car keys or a phone. There's really nowhere else to go. Every other house in that town is like abandoned or you just don't want to go into. So she probably had to go back to that house one more time. Hopefully the cops don't arrest her for driving her car into the house, because those cops sucked. I could absolutely see them putting all the murders on her. I mean, why wouldn't they? You know, in a certain way, this could kind of be like that alternate ending for Get Out. Like, she could have just gone to jail because she was written off as being a crackhead. These cops, like I said, awful. But getting back to these two leads, the mother and Tess, if this movie makes a lot of money, and I think it's going to, they're probably going to turn it into a franchise, and they're probably going to bring these characters back. I don't recommend that. I think that's a bad idea. I think if you do that, you're going to get something similar to Don't Breathe 2. Where, because frankly, there's nowhere left to go in the story. I would so much rather, instead of making a sequel to this, treat it like Get Out. Give a sequel to the director. Let him do something different. Maybe he can bring back some of the same actors and something like that, but like, don't try to milk, pun intended, don't try to milk this franchise. Don't try to milk this more than you need to. It's fine just the way it is. Leave it alone. And don't try to pull an Annabelle. Don't try to like go back and show us the origins of that. We don't want that. Nobody wants that. I just watched Orphan First Kill. Not good. Don't do that. Also, according to the press kit, Creeger says that he describes his film as a roller coaster that is designed to be seen in a theater. If you go to a theater, you will scream, you will laugh, you will have a blast. I'm not saying that you won't have a good time watching it at home, but you want to go on a roller coaster at a theme park, not on virtual reality goggles. That's the difference. Creeger continued, it's supposed to be a big midnight movie theater experience that you are screaming, grabbing the person next to you, and then laughing right after. My favorite horror movie experiences are always in a theater, and I'm always on a roller coaster, and that's the goal. There's some social themes kind of being explored in the movie, and if people come away with it and have a discussion about these themes, great, that's fine with me. That's not the goal. I don't want this movie to be satisfied with itself. I'm not trying to be didactic. I just want people to have a blast. So I hope it's a roller coaster, and I think it is. So as he said, this movie is in no way meant to be taken overly seriously in the themes, but rather function as a hell of a ride. So clearly this is a movie that you're supposed to see with an audience, and that's the way I saw it. I saw it with a bunch of people at a fan screening, and it was great. It was like fantastic. Like, people were laughing, especially during that tape measuring scene. They were just like laughing their ass off. The scene where she does jump, people were laughing, and it does a great job of balancing humor and horror. I think Justin Long really elevates this movie, and I don't think I even knew that he was in it based on the trailer. I watched this trailer like forever ago, and typically in horror movies, especially mysteries, I try to avoid the trailers as much as I can. And hopefully you saw this movie already and you avoided the TV spots and stuff like that. They haven't really spoiled anything yet, but I just saw like a TV spot for Nope, and they show way too much. Like, they show the whole movie in a trailer that I just saw that was put out like last week. Jordan Peele would be pissed. So it sucks that you have to like rush to the movie theaters to avoid being spoiled by it, but I, at the same time, would recommend it because A, this movie is great, and B, you want to see it in the best optimal way possible. Which brings us to the final question that I think a lot of us are wondering about, and I saved it for the end because it's kind of a touchy topic, but let's talk about it. Did Justin Long's character AJ actually do what he was accused of? Again, the poll is right down below. Comment down, let me know. Based on what I saw in this, starting out, I really wanted to be on his side. I really did. You know, I was one of those people who was watching the Johnny Depp trial, and I thought it would be so refreshing to see a character in that situation who actually turns out to be innocent, because we don't really ever get that in a movie. It's always like a cartoonishly evil villain that is always like pure evil. And it would have been nice to get a character who kind of reflected Johnny Depp a little bit.
You were drinking pretty heavily.
Were you there?
You know, it also makes the movie way more interesting if you go with the notion that he is innocent of that specific thing. Because just because he is a complete slimeball, and he is the worst, don't get me wrong, he is irrehensible. He pushes Tess off the building. He doesn't seem to have any type of empathy. He's a narcissist. He's measuring that house even though there's like blood on the mattress. Like, he doesn't care. He is all about him. But based on the evidence, there really isn't much to go off of. The only things that I consider to be a little bit of a tip of the hat to figure out what actually happened are two scenes, and the rest are kind of like just red herrings, red flags. Lots of red flags, as the director said. But basically the two scenes I'm talking about is, the first scene is when he's at the nightclub or the bar and he's talking to his buddy, and he's basically just saying something to the effect of, listen, you know, I didn't think I was doing anything wrong. You know, it seemed to be like she was kind of rejecting my advances, and then, you know, I kept, you know, I'm consistent though, I kept trying, I'm persistent, which just came across so cringy. And, you know, but according to him, he's like, and then she was into it. She was really into it. And you're just like, okay. And then the next scene is when he is leaving the voicemail for the person that made the accusations against him. And he's basically just, he's really drunk. And he, even though he was advised not to call this person, he does, and he's just like, listen, I misread the whole situation. I thought that this was a, you know, a thing that both of us, you know, I thought there was consent. I thought that you were into it. I am so sorry that I misread the situation. Please call me back. I want to apologize to you. there's two sides to every story, and I'm sorry that I read it wrong. And, look, you can easily look at that situation and go, he's just trying to save his ass. He's doing it after he got jammed up, and now he's doing it to save his career, because, like I said, he's a narcissist. I kept going back and forth in my head, just going back and forth of whether or not he did it. And like I said, I think it's a little bit more interesting if he didn't. I think realistically, what I really did land on is, like I said, I think in his head, he doesn't think he did anything wrong. Like I said, he's a narcissist and doesn't have any empathy. So I think he actually, and they have that scene where he says, like, am I a good guy who did a bad thing, or am I a bad guy who did a good thing? And you can tell he's like trying to like work it out a little bit. And if I had to guess, it sounds like he really just did not read the situation right at all. And he made the wrong choice. I don't think he's a cartoonishly villainous character. It's not like he's like twirling his mustache and he's got like a little evil monocle. I think he just really misread the situation. But again, we don't really know. And the movie puts you in that headspace of being a little uneasy and not knowing. They could have done a flashback. They do the flashback with the Joe Chill guy, the janitor guy, and we get to see what happened with him. They purposely put you in this mindset, and my take on that is that it's done intentionally so. I think they want to reflect what it feels like for us, the people who watch Hollywood actors and go, we're watching the news one day and we find out that another actor has been canceled because they've had allegations made against them. And much like all of us, a lot of us kind of look at it, and short of it being like a situation where it's like Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Spacey, whoever, and there's tons of allegations, every now and then there's a situation where maybe it's just like one allegation and it's kind of like a he said, she said situation. Like I said, the Johnny Depp thing, that clearly is the one that stands out as, in my opinion, Johnny Depp didn't do anything wrong. Amber Heard has a history of being unhinged. Johnny Depp, 50 years, has never done anything. Nobody's ever said anything against him. And I wish they kind of went more in that direction, but I don't really know. I think he's a douchebag. I'm glad he dies at the end. And I love that there's a little sense of irony in that if he did do it, there's that scene where he's being forced to to suckle at the nipple of the mother, and you could tell it's like, the shoe is now on the other foot, so fuck him. But it is interesting how the writer-director doesn't ever clue us in completely on whether or not he did it. I suspect he went too far. That's what I do. I think he's a piece of shit, and I think he went too far, and I think in his own head, he thinks he's not a bad guy when he really actually is. I just don't think it was a situation where he was, like, cartoonishly like a bad guy. Like, I don't think it was like a scene out of Witness. I think he just manipulated her and coerced her into doing something she probably didn't want to do. And maybe she just went along with it out of fear that he would do something if she didn't go along. Another thing that I considered too was that I don't think that she would make it up, because think about it, she's on a TV pilot, right? And if anyone has ever, talked to anybody who tried to be a TV star or a movie star, it's not easy getting picked up onto a TV show. So if you're on a TV pilot that's going to be picked up, you have to have a really damn good reason to blow up your spot and doing that, because she's basically throwing away the TV show that she probably worked really hard to get to. And I find it hard to believe that she would do that if it wasn't true, just to blow up Justin Long's spot and try to get some attention out of it, which makes me think that, yeah, there's definitely some foul play here. He clearly went too far. I just don't think it was a forcible thing. I think it was an intimidation thing. That's the way I read it, but let me know down below, what did you think? I got the 3 options right here. I'm still kind of mulling it over, and like I said, I think it's intentionally not meant to be clear, because you can go into it and watch it in different ways. I think you're always going to look at it and think that this guy's an asshole, and great. But it's interesting to kind of think about it in different ways. I think it's kind of interesting if he didn't do it. Just in the sense of, like, well, just because you're an asshole doesn't mean you're guilty of something as heinous as that. I think that might be a little bit of a point too, but I don't know. I'm still scratching my head on it, and it's intentionally written that way. But comment down below. Would love to get your thoughts. Until next time, guys, thank you so much for watching. Come back next week, and we're going to be covering the new Ty West film, Pearl, which is the prequel to the movie X. I'm really excited to see that. I'm going to be seeing it, I think on Thursday. I have to double check, but I'm really excited to talk about that one. I also have a trailer breakdown right here for Pearl, for the one, not the version that you guys got in the on YouTube, but the one that was shown after the movie X that you can no longer find. And I don't have the actual trailer, but I have shot-by-shot stills dictating what is shown in that version of the teaser trailer, and it's quite different from the trailer that is shown to us in the actual release of an official trailer. Until next time, guys, thank you so much for watching. I've been John here on Burns Reviews on Ending Explained. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you thought about this movie. Did you love it? Is it better than X? Do you think it's the best horror movie of the year? I was walking out of the theater, and there was this guy who was in his car, and he got out of his car, and he looks over at me, and he's like, "Hey! Yeah, you! Did you like the movie?" And I'm just like, "Yeah." And he's just like, "I thought it was bullshit." And I'm like, and I said to him, like, why do you think that? I'm like, he's like, bullshit. And he didn't tell me why. I asked him why. And then instead of telling me why he thought it was bullshit, he was just like, what would you give it out of 10? And I'm just like, I'd give it an 8. To be honest, I'd give it a 9, but he was already on the very negative train, and I don't know. I don't know this person. He just started yelling at me, so I was a little intimidated by it. I didn't want to give him a... I'm like, an 8, you know? And I'm still mulling it over. But yeah, this is definitely going to be a movie that is not for everybody, just because it is a little bit punchy, pulpy, over-stylized, and not in any way grounded. So there's going to be people that are like, this is insane. This is not real. This is bullshit. You know, it's too over the top that it breaks certain people's sense of disbelief. But be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you thought. Until next time, guys, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.